So it's probably the case that even individuals that aren't politically astute know that pharmaceutical companies are some of the most evil corporate entities in existence. Saying that big pharma is evil is akin to saying water is wet. It's just a statement that everyone accepts as truth because it is true. Now, you don't really get a sense of how evil these pharmaceutical companies are. You don't really realize just how bereft of humanity and empathy they really are until you learn about the internal dynamics of some of these companies. Now, there's an article from The Independent that gives us some insight into the political tactics of one drug company, Aspen, and what they report is absolutely disturbing. So they report that leaked internal emails appear to show employees at one of the world's leading pharmaceutical companies calling for celebration over price hikes of cancer drugs, an investigation has revealed. Staff at Aspen Pharmacare reportedly plotted to destroy stocks of life-saving medicines during a price dispute with the Spanish Health Service in 2014. In a confidential email published by The Times, an Aspen employee appeared to write, "We've signed new reimbursement and price agreement successfully. Price increases are basically on the line with European target prices. Lootcrate a bit higher. Let's celebrate." When bargaining over drug prices in Spain, the pharmaceutical giant is said to have threatened to stop selling the cancer treatments unless the health minister agreed to price rises of up to 4,000%, reported Spanish online newspaper El Confidencial Digital at the time. The price increases were made possible by a loophole that allows drug companies to change the price of medicines if they are no longer branded with the same name. The loophole is designed to make drugs cheaper once their patents have expired, but if drug companies have no competition, they are free to raise prices as well. A ruling by the Italian competition watchdog found Aspen had taken an aggressive approach to negotiations in the country. You don't say. You have the employees of a drug company celebrating when they raise the cost of a drug that saves lives, saves the lives of cancer patients. This is a unique evil that can only manifest within capitalistic systems. I mean, this is what unfettered capitalism gets you. It gets you a system where big corporations are a replacement to big government, and they're just as fascistic as the most totalitarian regime you could imagine. They claim that, these types of things, they just won't happen because when you have competition, well, if one company wants to raise the prices on, drugs that are life-saving for cancer patients, well, then the market will sort it all out. There's another company that will come along and they will replace that company who's being too greedy. But the problem is that what happens if there's just one company? What happens when there's no competition? This is what happens. It's horrible what these drug companies are doing. However, this isn't the only way that the pharmaceutical industry and pharmaceutical companies are screwing us over, because The Independent reports on another article. They state pharmaceutical companies are causing biased information to be given to doctors about the efficacy of drugs, causing an epidemic of misinformed practitioners that is costing hundreds of thousands of lives across the world. It has been claimed the number of over 75s being admitted to the hospital due to adverse drug reactions is 1 in 3, and a quarter of these patients will die as a result of these injuries. Now, the question when you read this is, where's the governments around the world? Why haven't world leaders come together and tried to rein in these pharmaceutical companies? Because, I can't speak for other countries, but looking at the United States, it's easy to see why they're ripping us off when you follow the money. So when you look at the pharmaceutical industry, specifically with regard to how much they're spending on elections, the answer becomes incredibly clear. So in 2016 alone, they donated more than $12 million to Democrats and over $15 million to Republicans. But that's just on campaign spending. They've spent more than $200 million per year on lobbying since 2007. So they buy off the United States government, they buy off third world leaders, they take advantage of European democracies, And, there becomes a point where we need to stop referring to this type of behavior as greed, because if greed becomes so bad that it's indistinguishable from evil, we just need to call it what it is. This is evil, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but these companies, they exhibit absolutely no semblance of humanity. They don't care about human suffering. I get that corporations, they have a fiduciary responsibility to increase shareholder value, but corporations, they're headed by human beings who are supposed to be empathetic to human suffering. I mean, if you're a human being, you know that you don't like to suffer. You want you or one of your family members to get treatment if you have cancer. You want them to be able to afford or to have access to drugs that are affordable. And yet these people are so greedy that I'm done calling it greed. It's evil. This is evil. It's not borderline evil. This is just evil. There's no other way to explain it. So, when I read the story, I was repulsed. They're basically holding a gun to the heads of these countries like Spain, and they're telling them either you accept this price or else. There's no other options. You just don't get this drug. So accept the price increase or your citizens who need this drug will die. It is incredibly reprehensible. I think that this is just a failure of our species, of humanity, that we let this go on. It's an atrocity.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.